From the Wig Street Studios in the village of Trumansburg, this is Finger Lakes Live on Tape, your source for the most reliable, unverified news in central New York. Featured guests on tonight's program, Town of Dryden Supervisor and New York State Assembly candidate Jason Leifer. And from the Ithaca Montessori School, Walaa, Maharem-Horan. Now, your unnecessarily inflammatory host, Keith Hannon.
Welcome to the broadcast. We begin with tonight's intentionally dramatized headlines designed to increase click rates. Protests are spreading around the country as the public grows restless with stay-at-home orders and the economic impact that comes with it. Perhaps no protest has received more attention than that in Michigan, where armed civilians stormed the steps of the Capitol building. When asked for comment, one of the protesters said, quote, "We just want to get Michigan back to normal. And by normal, I mean poisonous drinking water and high crime rates." Many of the COVID-19 protesters are angry over their state government infringing on their individual liberties. One of the demonstrators, who was waving a Confederate flag, said, "We are tired of being slaves to oppressive masters who are hell-bent on making us indentured servants to a manufactured crisis. We never had a say in this. They just shackled us to our homes and told us we couldn't leave." Again, this man was waving a Confederate flag. Joe Biden has officially become the presumed presidential nominee for the Democratic Party following Bernie Sanders' resignation from the race. Former President Barack Obama then offered his endorsement, which finally allowed the Democratic Party to boast a candidate that is both connected to the popularity of Mr. Obama while also being someone the opposition cannot connect to socialism. Local and regional lawmakers are advocating for a slow reopening of the upstate New York economy. Congressman Tom Reed, along with State Senators Pam Helming and Tom O'Mara, have all released statements calling for a phased reopening so struggling families can get back to work. They all stressed their desire for their collective constituency that enjoys a median household income of $50,000 a year to have the opportunity to return to the luxurious lifestyle that comes with that kind of income. Governor Cuomo has said the state will begin legally recognizing marriage ceremonies conducted via video conferencing. This news comes with much delight to couples looking to tie the knot in the coming weeks, and while they're not allowed to travel to their honeymoon destination, they all look forward to making out in front of that Zoom virtual background that features a palm tree. Let's just hope that's where it stops. The Lowe's hardware store in Big Flats was forced to shut down due to physical distancing violations. The closure notice was issued following complaints from customers citing every time they needed an employee to help them find something, there were no staff members in sight. The store is expected to reopen immediately after presenting a plan for how they will come into compliance while still leaving their customers wandering aimlessly around their vast store. Officials in the city of Ithaca are raising alarm for the economic impact the COVID-19 shutdown will have on the city's economy. Mayor Savante Myrick has asked the local higher education institutions to help the city compensate for the lack of students supporting the local economy. The schools are expected to help, but forecasts say despite that money, once the dust settles, Ithaca can expect to be left with only 13 used bookstores. 2 Canandaigua men were arrested after leading police on a chase through the city of Rochester. The men were wanted for kidnapping and forcing a woman to withdraw money from an ATM. Police say the Kodak-made street cameras caught images of the pursuit, but they will need 24 hours to develop the film. And in financial news, the cost per barrel of crude oil has dipped into negative figures. While some fear an oil shortage, experts have calmed fears by reminding us that there's an endless supply of oil within Chris Matthews' personality. Well, with local residents under lockdown, anxiously awaiting the arrival of sun and warmth, it's time to check in with the Finger Lakes Live on-tape Weather Center and see what we can expect.
I mean, we're talking about a lot of rain, like a lot of rain. So there's a lot of those blue dashes in there because it's a lot of rain in a few spots.
And that's a look at your weather. We'll be back with Town of Dryden Supervisor and State Assembly candidate Jason Leifer in just a minute. Welcome back to Finger Lakes Live on Tape. Joining us now is our first guest of the evening. His name is Jason Leifer. He is currently the town supervisor for Dryden, New York, and he is also running for state assembly. We'll get into both of those things right now. He joins us from his vehicle, which is not in motion. Jason, what are you doing in your car right now?
Thanks for having me, Keith. I'm picking up and delivering masks, for people since everyone's got to wear one now. Had to get some more for my family and some for some friends. So you got a whole bag right here.
So the masks are a state mandate. You are one of 6 or 7 Democratic candidates for state assembly in the greater Ithaca district, Ithaca and Cortland County, Tompkins and Cortland County, if I'm correct there.
Yes. Yeah.
And so considering Albany is known for being a place of just awful people, what makes you so awful that you think you can belong there?
I never quite thought of it like that before, but I think that I probably won't belong there. I mean, like when I walk in, I don't think that the establishment people will necessarily like me because, unlike them, I'm trying to actually accomplish things. I think I wrote this op-ed the other day. Actually, pretty much railing on the business as usual bit we got out of Albany, despite everything happening with this COVID crisis. They came up with a budget that, believe it or not, takes money away from healthcare and schools and doesn't really do much to increase access to internet for people. If anything, it's really just going in the wrong direction and doesn't solve any of the problems that this whole crisis exposed. And I really don't understand how the people who we send there to represent us could even allow that to happen.
So you mentioned schools and healthcare. Why do I need to care about those things?
And the thing is what the budget did, though, it cut funding for hospitals. I mean, we know upstate we don't have nearly as many hospitals, and especially as well-funded ones as we need. The state is the size of France, land-wise. I mean, and we need to have things, good rural hospitals that serve people where they live. They really shouldn't have to go 2.5 hours to get care for something. And that happens sometimes. You were talking about education. The funding essentially was cut again. They're not, and the funding formulas for rural schools doesn't give them enough. And to decipher how the money goes to a school district is just mind-blowing because they have these formulas that I don't even think the people who put them together could explain them in clear language to anyone. they're created just to get money to certain districts that, and they're very effective at that. So, like a lot of things in Albany, they rely on coming up with confusing formulas and things to just excuse why people who need, or communities who need assistance, don't get it.
So you are essentially the CEO of an upstate New York rural municipality. These are the same places where people have been fleeing for years now. We are hemorrhaging population from upstate. What are you going to do if elected to ensure that hemorrhage continues?
Well, if I get elected, I can do my best on a state level to drive people out of here. I think, we're going to do things like, get universal health care, municipal broadband, make it easier for people to open up, breweries and distilleries. And, we want to try to get rid of the property tax, put more money into education instead of prisons. That, we have a well-educated, kids who will decide they really like to go to parks that are clean and well-funded, stuff like that. I think if we'll make this place so livable that no one will want to live here is really the goal.
Ambitious goal.
Yes.
We wish you the best in those intentions. Yeah. Final thought before you drive off to wherever you're headed in that in that automobile.
Yeah.
So you are one of many candidates in this primary that will be voted on in June. We think probably
right.
by mail. The final word is for tonight's interview. Why Jason Leifer? What makes Jason Leifer different than all those other Democratic candidates?
That I actually deliver results, and I've got the 12 years of experience in this local government and see things for the big picture. I think I got a pretty decent vision that's on the cutting edge of things we need for the state. And on top of that, even though some people might call me a son of a bitch, I'll be your son of a bitch. So there you go.
You're also an attorney, and we'll should we look the other way on that?
No, I think what I do is actually do a lot of court-appointed work and I represent kids. So I think, when you have things like criminal justice bills being written, it's kind of nice to have someone like me who actually practices in that area to help write them so that we don't have to keep revising things every other year.
Providing children with representation sounds like more coddling that this generation is handing down, but hey, everyone's got to make a living, you included.
Yeah.
Jason, thanks for joining us here on Finger Lakes Live on Tape.
One last plug from my website. It's www.leiferforassembly.com, and you can also find me on Facebook.
And I should add, if any other candidates, we are willing to be fair and consider all other candidates as guests. So if you'd like to come on this far-reaching program, we are here for you as well.
And you can also find me on Facebook.
Find them in those places. Find us back here in about 30 seconds. Welcome back to Finger Lakes Live on Tape. We welcome our second guest of the evening. Her name is Walaa Maharem-Horan, and she is the operations director at Ithaca Montessori School. Walaa, thanks for coming on the program. You are enjoying an extended vacation. We are all very jealous of you. Tell us why we should be jealous of your vacation and all of those who are on vacation from the early childhood education industry.
Well, I really think we need to redefine education because we need to redefine education. We also need to redefine vacation because unfortunately with the shutdowns of the state, we had to shut down our school. So everybody is currently furloughed. And by extended vacation, what it really means is the co-director, Pam, and I are volunteering our time about 40 hours a week to keep the school still going. So when we are able to open back up, we have a place to come back to, and the children have a place to come back to. Our teachers are unfortunately having to apply for unemployment at this time. We, as a school, with our board and the other director and I, decided we would not be charging tuition for the time we are closed. So that means, unfortunately, none of us have a paycheck because there's no subsidies or support from the state or the government in any way for early childhood education.
Well, so, early childhood education, famous for how the educators are compensated and how you're funded by the government. Did we not put anything away for a rainy day? What's going on here? Is this fiscal irresponsibility at its finest?
Oh, ouch. No, we have operating costs that we still have to do. Because we furloughed everybody, we're still continuing to pay our staff's health insurance and life insurance and dental and, vision, so we can help them stay healthy and go to the doctors if, they do get sick, which is the difference between furloughing staff as we did versus laying everybody off.
Well, so I think that maybe provides a little bit of clarity on what your school is facing, what the industry is facing. Jason Leifer, our first guest, who moved down the couch and is staying on right now with us, he wants to represent you in the New York State Assembly. What do you say to a person like that in terms of what needs to be provided to your school and all of the schools that offer childcare to our district?
Well, Jason and I have actually talked about this many times, which is why I'm actually supporting him in the assembly race. And he's got my vote personally.
We're not here for endorsements.
It's not. I'm just saying it has something. As somebody who's a politician, I have spoken to him about this because, unfortunately, there aren't many that are willing to be sounding boards or at least someone I can vent to about our frustrations. I mean, we have no support unless we participate in certain funding opportunities, but they're not open to everybody. We are a nonprofit cooperative, parent cooperative. So there's opportunities that are open to other centers that aren't open to us. We also employ 33 people, which makes us just slightly above the threshold of some of the small business applications that we're able to do. So we're kind of in this limbo, and we kind of feel like we get punished a little bit by being a living wage employer, because we really end up living to the line of are we going to make payroll this week? Okay, well, great. We've made payroll and we've paid all of our bills and we're in the black now, but that wasn't how it was many years ago. And we've had to make decisions as to what needs to happen. For example, the directors reevaluated our salaries and we took a voluntary pay cut so that we could bring our staff to a living wage level, because that's what we believe at our school is the baseline. This is a baseline thing. So we were hoping to put together a consortium for health insurance. The health insurance that we have is ungodly expensive, and not everyone can afford it, even with the living wage, because the plans that are available to a small business are not that great and they're expensive. However, when we were talking about it and talking to other centers about joining in and putting all of the small centers like us together so that we can all kind of purchase insurance together, we were informed by our insurance I don't know what they're called.
Crooks, I believe they're called crooks.
Well, there's those, but this is the middle person, the person that we go through to purchase our policies. They told us we couldn't do that.
Okay, I consider this a no spin zone. I let you do your thing there, making the early child care business not look luxurious. or supported. So let's say
Well, it's definitely a
hypothetically,
luxury for some, though. I want to say that it's 100% a luxury for those that could afford it, and it's not cheap.
Right.
It's I mean, it's equivalent to a mortgage. I get it, but at the same time, like our staff is important to us, and they're taking care of your kids. So yes, it's a luxury, but I want to give our staff a luxury of being able to have food and be able to pay rent and put gas in it, have health insurance.
Well, hold on. Those are radical ideas.
I know. I'm so sorry.
And people being
But
able
how are we
to
gonna pay for
live.
how are we going to pay for them? That is,
You know what? I think if we converted all the child care centers into banks, we could find the money for them real fast.
I have a lot of opinions on that statement.
Yeah.
Walaa is giving kind of the perspective of her school, and I think it's probably something that other schools would try to argue. What are you going to do for these folks?
Well, I think it's statewide. I mean, at a minimum, just so that they're not the only living wage employer in the business in the county, it would be good to finally have a statewide living wage. For one thing, because then it evens that playing field. The other thing is making sure that they schools like Ithaca Montessori School can take advantage of funding that other people, other programs that they're, I guess, shut out of. There's always the red tape issue, which I know from just working in family court, dealing with DSS and OCFS can be a royal pain in the neck. And she's completely right too. It's like you can't restart this economy and not restart early childhood education, which isn't always through the school district. And you have to take care of the people taking care of our kids.
So in closing, Walaa, thanks for coming on. Jason, thanks for chiming in. I think maybe there's a running mate potential in this duo. These fight the system types that seem to be all around us these days. But Walaa,
right.
What in 30 seconds, your elevator pitch to us, what has this crisis really highlighted? You've talked about issues that were already there, but it seems like in situations like this, those gaps, those holes really become apparent. So what's the elevator pitch for what's really become apparent in what you seem to think is the lack of support offered by early childhood education?
I think what this has shown is the value of what the children are learning in early childhood when their parents are working. And there's a great value to these parents who their children can keep themselves entertained and can sit there and read and can draw, and they don't need the parents' attention 100% of the time, so that the parents can do work from home. So there is an immediate showing there of what early childhood brings to the table, and to continue to do that at a level that is beneficial to the children and the parents, we have to show our support behind these teachers.
Jason, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. So,
yeah, I figured you might.
I'm just pandering right now. It's just,
right.
That's what we do.
Right.
Well, as
Well, you
politicians, that's what I
won
expect
one
of you
vote
guys, yeah.
tonight. You might have lost another. So, but that's
I don't
make it
know.
even. It's not
If
too
I
bad.
still, the longer I stay on, the worse it gets.
Oh, it can get so much worse.
Thank you both for joining me. I hope you appreciated the opportunity to weave your propaganda, and we really appreciate the work that you're trying to do. At least some people do appreciate it, I'm sure.
Thank you for the opportunity to rant, because in the last month I've only had my husband to rant to, and he's kind of just like putting headphones in now, so I appreciate people to rant to.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep our ears open, and best of luck to everything moving forward to you both. We will be back with The Way I See It after this brief intermission. We end tonight with The Way I See It. The way I see it, the COVID-19 shutdown has become a threat to our liberty. Thomas Paine's Common Sense, the Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation. Liberty is America. We built a giant statue in our largest city and we named her Liberty. Liberty is the lifeblood of the American experience, and with that liberty comes the liberty to deny liberties to those we deem unworthy of liberty. Liberty grants us the liberty to take liberties with the law and blow someone away because they stepped on our property, and we've deemed that a threat to our liberty. Likewise, liberty affords us the liberty to strap rifles to our bodies and storm a government building without the threat of being stripped of our liberties. With our liberty comes the liberty of deciding who has the liberty of exercising their own liberty. We have the liberty of practicing a faith, and that liberty may very well advocate for the denial of someone's liberty. You have the liberty to marry someone, but you may not have the liberty to marry who I don't think you should have the liberty to marry. You have the liberty to not have children, but not necessarily the liberty to choose to what degree you do or do not liberate your reproductive organs. It should also be stated that American liberty makes us uniquely qualified to appreciate the merits of liberty. Certainly, people who have lived with liberty their entire lives have the liberty of appreciating liberty more than people fleeing authoritarian governments, who enjoy the liberty of destroying liberty. The key to liberty is to ensure that liberty is defined by those who have enjoyed a life of uninterrupted liberty. Colonial Americans declared, "Give me liberty or give me death." And 21st century Americans simply want the liberty to choose death over liberty. I'm not a medical professional or a scientist, but I am an American. So while I don't know the ins and outs of viruses and pandemics, I do know liberty. And I know the liberty to exercise my liberty, despite the fact the exercising of that liberty may very well rob someone of their liberty, is nonetheless a liberty. You may think that's taking too many liberties with my liberty, but that's probably because you're in the camp of removing my liberty. See, liberty isn't liberty if it's not an absolute and endless liberty. That's the only true liberty. And damn it, I think that's worth protecting. Unless you're someone who wants to use liberty in a way that takes liberties with my definition of liberty. In that case, you don't have the liberty to enjoy those liberties, as I'll ask you to remember that those with the most liberty are always in the best position to hand out liberty. Because, friends, at the end of the day, it's not really about your liberty, it's about mine. This concludes tonight's broadcast. Thank you for tuning in to Finger Lakes Live on Tape. And remember, those kids driving you crazy, causing all that stress, well, they're clones of you, and you made them. Good night.